Okay, we are back. We had talked before about The Last Dance, and now we're talking about everything from metrics to Bill Russell to dynasties, Spurs, Celtics, Lakers, and the a lot of you sent me something about I think it was Sports Illustrated had just come out with like all of these top lists.
ESPN.
ESPN, right? ESPN, and Bill Russell is on all these lists, and you just mentioned to me, which made me hit record, that Bill Russell is on your top nothing list. He's on
Right.
everybody's top list, probably top 10. You're going to have to explain that one. How do you get to that? Because very quickly, one sentence, he dominated in the late 50s. And then when he retired in the late 60s, the game was completely different, much more athletic, and he still did very, very well. So how do you get to not on the list with 11 rings or whatever, 13 rings, whatever it is? How do you get that?
Well, it was only 8 teams or so.
Right.
Back then.
Yes. When he started, yes.
And he had a star-studded Hall of Fame teammates up and down his roster.
Mm-hmm.
They had arguably the best coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big man. He shot 44% for his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not playing against the best players because the other best players are not in the NBA.
The shooting percentage thing back then, I have to quibble a little bit. Looking at the metrics, no, I'm kidding. But when you look at there are two things where you see numbers in his career kind of not artificial, but completely a product of their times. And it's where you have so many misses that I think his rebound numbers are artificially inflated. Because when you look at Bob Cousy's shooting percentage, what is it, 38%? I mean, it's brutal. 35%. I mean, it's really, really bad. But they're all like that. So there are a bazillion different kinds of rebounds. So there's more rebounds available. That's one thing. So it artificially inflates the rebounding stats. But okay, because I see your point with the shooting percentage. What I don't understand is why practically everybody has such a wretched shooting percentage back then. And I mean, were the rims made out of bedrock? Like what was up with that? And but also a big guy like Russell, I agree with you. Your shooting range is 2 feet, 18 inches. It shouldn't be that low. So yeah, but you can't. But it's still hard to, I don't know. It sounds a little harsh for you to pull him off of the super duper list because of those things. What about the rings, the rebounding numbers? He went toe to toe with Wilt Chamberlain, who was light years ahead of his time, and Russell did not only didn't he embarrass himself, he battled him head on.
Well, I looked at their head-to-head numbers. I mean, he gets credit because if Wilt is averaging 40 points against the rest of the league and he's averaging 35 against Russell, did he stop him?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And because of Bill Russell had status, so he could get away with more fouls.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was playing him, and he shut him down. Wilt's team just weren't as good. So
right,
the head-to-head matchup, Russell gets more wins, but it wasn't because he was shutting them down.
Yeah, I mean, but also if you put, and it's not like, I'm not in part of necessarily the Bill Russell fan club. I'm a pioneering player and all that kind of stuff, and winning is winning. All the, it's not, and all, but a lot of that's not his fault. Like he was, to pin him down because he happened to be born in the 1930s and came of age at that time is a little much. I just, when somebody dominates like that and wins like that, it's like Jeff Van Gundy says on Zach Lowe's podcast all the time. We're talking about winning. When did winning stop being in fashion? And Russell comes into the league in Boston, and yeah, I mean, he was lucky to be under the architect himself in Red Auerbach, but and then what did he do? He came in and they ran the table.
I think he gets more of a bump because of his civil rights activism than his basketball.
I disagree, actually. I think Russell is kind of one of these quiet, dignified guys. When you think activism, I don't put Bill Russell. There's where I don't put Bill Russell definitely in. I don't put him in the front just because he wasn't. I don't put him there because he wasn't like a big vocal presence like a Muhammad Ali or even Jim Brown, who in the 70s was very, very active and is active to this day.
Where do you have Bill Russell in your top players?
Of all time,
Mm-hmm.
he probably would be around 20.
Around, so you don't automatically give him a top 4 spot
No,
like everyone else?
no. And a lot of it is because, you know me, I love numbers. I like stats.
But see, top 20, I'm good with top 20. But my issue is, why is he automatically in the top 4 or 5 on everyone's list?
Right. And some of that is habit. I think some people are afraid. They'll leave George Mikan off the list or put him way down, right? Nope. Hey, no problem. Or they'll forget a player like let me think. Who am I trying to think of? Well, look at someone like Oscar Robertson. There's another guy who's been forgotten. People talk about the greatest of all time. And every old guy I know, older than we are, of course, you're now extra old, pushing 40. But Oscar Robertson is nowhere to be found. And from what I know, and I know I'm a big Steph Curry fan. I like the Warriors. They're fun to watch. I get it. I'm not maligning Steph Curry. But to be honest, if time era is of no consequence and I have to pick Oscar Robertson or Steph Curry, that's not an easy pick. I might pick Oscar Robertson when you look at what he did. You talk about one guy carrying a team. I mean, he'd bring the Cincinnati Royals to the conference finals every year, basically by himself. Alone. Right. He's an old man. He jumps in with Kareem in Milwaukee and they win a title like that. Automatic. So, that's why, Oscar Robertson somehow gets forgotten, but you're right. Bill Russell is maintained in many people's top 4 or 5 almost out of habit. And I don't get it either.
So here's another question I have for you. All right, if you put LeBron James on those Celtics teams instead of Bill Russell, does he shoot 44%?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. My immediate answer is no. But LeBron James at 6'8", 6'9". I mean, Bill Russell's listed at 6'9", which means he was really 6'8" or 6'7". And you can see the height disparity when you see clips of him against Wilt. You have, Russell's built more like Kevin Durant, like a 2 inches shorter Kevin Durant than anyone else. And so what you have is they'd put LeBron at center. And he would be told, your job is to protect the basket and dunk on guys and get a couple of layups. And so I don't know. I mean, a lot of it is, so much of it is the atmosphere you're in. And I always think of the god of metrics, your guy, Bill James, because I know you love the metrics so much.
Right, the metrics are my favorite.
Yeah. he mentioned it's about Babe Ruth, but what he said was, everybody talks about the
I
ball
can't hear you.
being. Am I? Oh,
Now I can hear you.
okay. Yeah, I just got a thing on that said the internet connection is unstable. I might have to get up for a second to let my cat out if he goes bonkers. But what he said with regard to Babe Ruth was not that necessarily the ball got juiced or, all of a sudden the owners wanted to see home runs, right? Because you have Babe Ruth hitting more home runs than every other team. I think it was 1921, right around there. The first year he hit over 50. He said, quote unquote, everybody knew that hitting long fly balls was a loser's game. And Babe Ruth was the kind of guy who said, I don't buy that. And rip, and all of a sudden, you have within Babe Ruth's era, a bunch of guys hit over 50 home runs. So, it wouldn't be LeBron now going to the Celtics. It would be LeBron then going to the Celtics. And maybe he would just be as good or better than Bill Russell. I think he'd be better, but I mean, nutrition and,
Right.
I mean, so many different factors. It's a great question to ask. I think, LeBron James so great that that I don't know. I don't know.
Dr. J's another one who's forgotten about.
Yes.
And I tell you why he's forgotten about. Because of the metrics and the stats, they don't reflect how dominant he really was and how his greatness. Like, you look at his numbers and you're like, okay, I've seen better numbers, but it doesn't measure the impact that he had back then.
Right.
So he doesn't get mentioned at all.
I know.
But growing up, he was all these guys' favorite players.
Yeah.
So
Well, even
he
in
doesn't get mentioned.
even in the Last Dance, who does Michael Jordan mention? He mentions the Sixers. He mentions Dr. J, right? I want to be one of these guys that brings the franchise and himself to that level. And the Sixers and Dr. J are in the mix. No two ways about it. And Dr. J's completely forgotten, especially since those first 5 seasons are in the ABA, 2 with the Virginia Squires, right? Go ask a high school kid who follows the NBA about the Virginia Squires. You're going to get a blank look.
Yeah, they won't know.
They don't know. Or the New York Nets. Huh?
Right.
And playing in Long Island with the Islanders in the Long Island Coliseum. Huh? They're not going to know. Yet Dr. J's numbers are a metrics guy's fantasy. They're fantastic. And they've been just swept under the rug. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Metrics don't never measure impact. Like, it's just a slew of just numbers that really, they think that players are robots and they just think, oh, this is the product. No, it's not. It's far from it.
Right. I do things that, not to repeat myself, but I will. A couple of things that are my tried and true numbers go-tos. And one of them is, where were you in the league if you're putting up those numbers, right? So if you're, it's like shooting percentage when Bill Russell played. Let's say he shot 48% and led the league in shooting percentage. I don't know those numbers, right? I don't know if he led the league or what, but he's leading the league in shooting percentage. That carries it. He's the best there is, like the metrics in that. That's why you see guys in the late 90s, early 2000s in baseball hitting 35 home runs and having 104 RBIs, and they're nowhere to be found. Because back then those numbers meant nothing. And that's the context I use.
Same thing with Babe Ruth's era. I think he batted 392 one year, and he wasn't in the top 25.
Yeah.
Something like ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I use that Babe Ruth all the time. I said, Babe Ruth is a great player, but he won 1 batting title. It doesn't mean that he sucked, because if I'm following the metrics by just hardcore, numbers, everything, Babe Ruth was terrible. He was a bad player. 1 batting title, and within 2 or 3 seasons, Lou Gehrig and Williams and these other guys were hitting 40 to 50 home runs. Hank Greenberg in the early 30s, 58 home runs out of James Monroe High School. Right? Babe
Hank
Ruth, nothing
Greenberg. Oh,
special.
I didn't know he was a New Yorker.
Yeah, Hank Greenberg was a Jewish kid in the South Bronx, went to James Monroe High School, is in their Hall of Fame. And yeah, and
Went to the Tigers
and dominated. Yeah. Yep. So going by the numbers, like, oh, Babe Ruth, oh, ho hum, but like you said, the metrics can't measure some of those impact things. That's where your case with Dr. J is perfect, because that impact is invisible when you look at the stat sheet. That's what gets lost big time. I mean, you
where
could
do you
probably
rank Dr. J?
That's a tough. I mean, that's as high as Bill Russell, at least top 20. I'm going to probably say top 20 now for everybody. It's going to be a crowded top 20. 40 guys in the top 20. But yeah, he would be up there, but again, at almost 50, players that I think of that were amazing, guys like Moses Malone, things like that. Guys like that. Moses is another guy that's gotten forgotten, and he seemed to have anger management issues when he played Kareem.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, Moses would go berserk when he was with the Rockets, or then when he was with the Sixers and they played LA. Oh, forget about it. Moses went off the rails, I think, to prove a point, and that's just forgotten.
Yeah, they don't. And his stats are great, but the impact isn't there.
Yeah.
That's the thing that the newer generation will never don't understand. They just look at the stats and the metrics and this and that, and they were like, okay, this guy's better than him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, well, on what planet are you on? And it was going to be a good test for that Tim Duncan, because he
Mm-hmm.
finished his career. I think he's like just under 20. So let's say 19 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
But what was his impact? It was not 19 and 11.
And not only that, I mean, everybody wants to have it both ways, but any self-respecting statistics hound will realize that he's 19 and 11 or whatever he is, because that last season or two, when Popovich was playing him 22, starting him every 65 times and playing 21 minutes or 22 minutes, right? So he's not a 20 and 12 guy because he just those last two seasons are so quiet, and that brings down the average. But impact, I mean, talk about impact. Come in to a good franchise with a Hall of Fame center and 5 titles. He was the difference maker. So let me let this cat out before he has a conniption. So yeah, Mr. C wanted out, so he was all underfoot. So yeah, I mean, Tim Duncan is going to be the test case for this kind of thing for sure, because it's a great point, because looking at the numbers, it's like, yeah, okay. And what hurts Duncan is the consistency. Like, this is so boring. All he is 23 points and 12 rebounds every season. Oh well, big whoop. But the impact is off the charts. Will be interesting to see in 10 years as let's see, 2020, 10 years or so, as the United States is breaking apart. It'll be interesting to see the Tim Duncan legacy, what they're saying, what your people in Metricsville are saying. I don't know.
Is he in your top 20? He's another top 20 player?
Oh, top 20 automatic. Or just you take it to the bank, top 20. Yeah, well, he is top 20. I you know what? I may have to actually sit down and write out the top 20. Right, where
okay,
style, where I write out my just names that come to my head. Actually, write it down in pen on the far right of the page, and start. I'll come up off the top of my head. I'll come up with 50 names without even trying.
And
And
then
I'll
you
come up
rank
with,
them.
yeah, I mean, I'll come up with Dominique Wilkins right away, but I don't know if I'm going to, he's not going to be top. Okay, Wilkins is off, I'm a big fan, right? And grew up watching the Atlanta Air Force do its thing. But like Dominique Wilkins, Larry Bird are names that would come to my mind right away. I'm going to keep Bird and I'm going to get rid of Wilkins, and I'll put a question mark next to people like, I don't know.
Well, Isaiah Thomas didn't even make the top 30 on ESPN.
That's ridiculous. Easy top 20. Really? I'm afraid to ask. Is this where? Who's the guy whose name I keep forgetting? Good sportscaster. Good. Who's like, you kids don't even know.
Broussard.
Broussard.
Chris
Chris
Broussard.
Broussard. He had that great bit on "You kids don't even know how good Isaiah Thomas was." Who did they put? Well, let me ask it this way: what point guards did he put in front of him besides Magic Johnson and maybe Oscar Robertson? Although I'll bet Oscar didn't make it.
I think they were like 6 or 7 point guards ahead of him. Steph Curry was ahead of him. I know Oscar Magic. Who else? It was someone else that was like, Russell Westbrook.
That's
Russell.
No. Right now, Russell Westbrook is Reggie Theus, who could rebound. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Reggie Theus, and I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but not much. Go look at what Reggie Theus did with the Kings and with the Bulls. 23. He could score 30. He could have scored 30 points a night if his teammates and coach would have let him. He could pass the ball. He was not a rebounder, but he was an athletic guy who could kind of do what he wanted on the court. And people are going to laugh at that comparison because they're flipping out with Russell Westbrook and the triple-double 3 seasons. And everybody is told Russell Westbrook is the most amazing thing in the world. Okay. Where's the impact? I don't see it.
No impact. And the rebounds, we already spoke about the rebounds are fake because they just let him get them.
Yeah. And I like Westbrook's passing game. I mean, for a guy like him to have, and again, the assist numbers his assist numbers got padded at home, but you could really say that about everybody. That's not that crazy a criticism, and it is the NBA. You're not going to pass out. You're not going to have 10 assists a night just on happenstance. You got to be moving the ball around, which is great, but the rebounding numbers are fake. Even Zach Lowe, who is sometimes afraid of controversy, he just outright said it. He's like, this is ridiculous. Like, these numbers are not legit, which was good for him to do that and actually say it out loud on his platform. But, I know the Theus Westbrook stuff is a little nutty, but I don't know, man. You have one of these guys that puts up crazy numbers. I can think of a lot of guys who put up crazy numbers.
I know, but yeah, they have him ahead of Isaiah Thomas.
No, not in a million years. That's just bad. That's just bad basketball analysis. That's all. They must have had the junior varsity write that article.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, I just scrolled through it. Like, they'll have players that are like the kid in Milwaukee, Giannis.
Right.
They had him at top. He was like the 22nd best player of all time. I'm like, he had one good season.
Right.
Let him put 5, 6, 7 of those together straight. Now one seat, I don't know.
No, I mean, it's true. It's the hype machine. It's the modern day social media. Whitlock is the go-to guy on this. The modern day social media, everyone is in your face at all times. So Giannis, who's 27, 12, and 9 or whatever it is this year, I mean, just monster numbers, is in our face all the time. It's just blaring nonstop. Oh, well, I mean, you can't leave that guy out of the all-time top 10, man. Look how amazing he is. Yeah, but he was a project. It worked. I mean, look at Giannis' first 2 years. First year, he was invisible because he was learning, and good for him. It's an amazing story. But Jonathan Bender was supposed to be Giannis. Remember him?
Yeah, right.
Right. Well, they said guys to this day are like, he just got hurt. They were like, Jonathan Bender's going to be great. Okay. Or Al Harrington. These guys who came out of high school, and Giannis comes from overseas and turns himself into a major force. But all-time list,
and like even like with the Westbrook thing, I don't want to bash those two players because they actually don't loaf. They go out there, they play hard every night. They want to play the 82 games. They're not into the load management thing. But yeah, like the media and the hype machine and the metrics, they just it's just too much. So now it makes you kind of like look at them differently. But as players, I like them. I root for them. I mean, Russell Westbrook is one of the few players that I'll buy a ticket to go see, because I know he's not going to sit out and he's not going to loaf, and he's going to give it 100% even on a Tuesday night in January.
Yes, against the Knicks.
No one's watching, and no one's in the stands.
Right. Well, my go-to line. Go ahead.
The other guy's James Harden. They're now their teammates.
Right.
For James Harden, all his shots and stuff on a Tuesday night in January against Orlando, he's going out there like, oh, I can get 60 tonight.
Right.
He's not going out there like, oh, I don't want to play. I should get a day off. He's like, no, this is the game that I can go all out on.
I'm in Orlando. Dwight Howard's stepson is guarding me tonight. Right. I'm going to set I'm breaking Wilt's record now.
Right. And I like those players. That's how Jordan was.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing. That's why I can't get maybe I bit off a little more like a chew with the Reggie Theus comparison with Westbrook. Although I'll have to take a look. But Westbrook
Reggie is not
like crazy.
It's not motor. The Reggie Theus didn't have the motor Westbrook had, or the want.
Right. Yeah, he was a smooth scorer who liked to shoot. Kind of like me, now that I think about it.
So you're the perfect comparison for Reggie Theus.
Yeah, I'm in my own top 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's the thing. And it's one of the things with current NBA that the power elite don't understand. Here we are saying, man, Giannis, Westbrook, Harden, they play all the games and they try hard.
Right. Like, look at that.
Good for them. Like, what? Right? Thurl Bailey, a 6'11" big man off the bench for the Jazz, who backed up the forwards in Utah, usually Karl Malone. A guy like him, he did that all the time. And because Karl Malone was in front of him, he never started. And he was a 6'11" guy with soft hands who could do whatever he wanted, one of these real smooth guys. And he wanted to play more. But he had the mailman in front of him. And so he was the top big guy off the bench. And he played every game and came out just like gangbusters, like it was going out of style. Sometimes played center if Mark Eaton had to sit. And, now it's, you see why some of these older guys get a little soured on the current NBA, because you had guys fighting to play. Now they're
I don't watch
to not play.
I don't watch it. I don't watch till the playoffs. If there's like a game on, like a quote unquote big game, I don't pay attention to it. It'll be on, and then I might tune in the fourth quarter, 5 minutes left if it's close.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then I don't care.
Yeah.
Because if they don't care, why should I?
Yeah, I do the my specialty is I go to those 12-minute YouTube videos, right? Where it'll have, let's say it has like Lakers Bucks, which is, in the old days I was like, oh, I got to see that, right? Let's see LeBron and his crew against Giannis and his bunch, and is it in LA, is it in Milwaukee? Is it negative 20 in Milwaukee with 12 feet of snow? All the players hate that, and all these kinds of things. I'm like, I'll do the 12-minute video on YouTube.
Their girlfriends can't make it over from Chicago, so now they're upset.
Right. So it's it's like that, and it really shouldn't be that way. And so those things, and like you said, because if they're not caring that much about it, like you're willing to be a well-paid professional athlete, which good for you. Set your family and heritage up for life, and you play basketball for a living. Basketball, I would love to do that. That would be. I'm not envy or hating, but if you're not gonna if you're not gonna be there, that was my go-to line before. Was in the old days was if it's Sacramento on a Tuesday, the 1986 Jordan put on a show.
Right.
Now of course it's the Knicks. It's Tuesday night in New York, and 12 people are watching.
Right.
Who's there?
The thing is, like, not hating and not being jealous and envious, but I'm jealous and envious and hating on Chris Middleton. I mean, 5 years, $176 million. And you know who really hates that is the players like a Dr. J or
Yep.
those type of guys where, like, wait a minute, this guy can't tie my shoes.
Right. Yeah. Does Chris Middleton make your top 20?
He's just outside.
And that's the thing.
He's on my top 20 Milwaukee Bucks of this year.
Top 20 Milwaukee Bucks shooting guard list.
2019.
Guaranteed. So I mean, but you can see why they get upset, because Chris Middleton is nothing wrong with Chris Middleton. He's the perfect guy for that team. He's a solid, steady shooting guard. He does his job, but 5 years. So you're saying he's making over $30 million a year?
Yep.
Man, I know there's inflation and the Federal Reserve and all this kind of stuff. I get it, but that's you can see why someone like Dr. J or anyone from that era is like
the other
head
one
exploding.
is Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris has the same contract.
Yeah.
5 for 170 something.
That's wild.
And he's
with the Sixers?
Yeah. He's a cool little player. I like him.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why these owners and GMs pay it.
That's the thing that was always the case in trailblazers like Oscar Robertson and the baseball stuff in the 70s, where they're like, wait a minute, we're doing the math and you guys keep crushing salaries down. Something's not right. And then when the TV money came in the late 80s, they were like, players in all the pro sports were saying to themselves, something is really wrong, where you constantly, we're constantly scrapping, yet the franchise is pulling in X 99 zillion dollars. It shouldn't be that way. And they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is get their slice of the pie. The money must be outrageous. I don't know. I'm with you to some degree. I don't know how it's sustainable. I mean, how do you pay Tobias Harris and Chris Middleton that kind of cake? $30 million a year for those guys? I mean, I'm with you, right? I'll watch Tobias Harris dunk on guys all night, but I don't know. If they're making 30, what are the other guys making? What's
here comes a problem with that. That's a max deal. Let's say LeBron James now signs a max deal, so LeBron's getting paid the same as Chris Middleton,
right?
And then that's when a LeBron gets upset. It's like, wait a minute, I am the NBA.
Yes.
I've been in the NBA for the last 10 years, and how come I make as much as this Chris Middleton, who's the top 20 shooting guard on the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, and LeBron has a point. He's been carrying the NBA for 15 years, right? Jordan comes back with the Wizards, is done with that whole stunt by 2002, let's say. Kwame Brown didn't pan out. Let's just put that out there. And LeBron comes in as a high schooler in 2003. And boom, it's been all LeBron all the time. And yeah, I mean, Tobias Harris is a crafty player and a legit NBA guy. But yeah, if he's making that, LeBron should make $90 million a year.
Well, yeah, right. He shouldn't have a cap. He should make $150 million a year because he's going to return more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Any team he's with and the NBA. Well, like, the NBA should just pay these guys.
Right.
Not even the team. Like, there's certain players that transcend. They should just be paid by the NBA.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who determines that is another discussion. But yeah, right. I mean, you'll be, Kyle Kuzma could say, "I'm the NBA," right? Without me, the NBA craters.
No. Well, then the other stars will try to say the same thing, but they're not. One guy is usually the NBA.
Right.
And it's been LeBron.
Yeah.
And before him, it was Jordan.
Right.
There was a limbo period, but
not much. Not much. But yeah, you're right. There was a little bit of downtime. And it was also the high school to pro era, which we talked about last time, which was an embarrassment. But before Jordan, it's very easy to bracket the eras. And now after Jordan, it really is LeBron. I mean, that's what everyone's going to say. It's a kind of a crying shame for Durant for two reasons. He comes in during the LeBron era in 2007, and then the last 2 years he's been hurt. But, Kevin Durant is amazing. And in any other era, he would be the face of the NBA. Case closed. So
I know.
I don't know. So who's the next era? Is the Zion era?
If he gets in shape
in front of us, you think it's going to be an issue?
Yeah, because his game is just gonna leave. It's too explosive. He can't carry that much weight.
Even with modern medicine, modern diet, modern care.
Well, that's what he needs. He needs the nutrition aspect. He needs to just come in and just be ripped. I don't know what New Orleans is doing. Just get him steroids, HGH, whatever. Put him in the lab. All this time that they were out, he should have just been getting rebuilt.
We have the technology. We can rebuild it.
Sit him out. Sit him out this whole year and just rebuild him with all the go get Balco, go get all these guys, Biogenesis, and just and just let him loose after that.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the. I was thinking about this because it's one of the very pressing situations of today. Is which NBA players are actually going to be helped by the coronavirus, Corona Chan visit? And Zion Williamson, I think, is one of them. It's just extra rest for his frame. It could actually be one of the people where unwittingly the time off could help.
Did you see the NBA's coming back? They already announced it.
Oh, really? What are the specs? What's the deal?
It's 22 teams in Orlando. They're going to play, I think it's 10 games to determine seeding. 16 in, 6 out. Then it's no East and West. It's going to be just 1 through 16. One plays 16, 2 plays 15, so on and so forth.
Right.
And then they don't have to travel, so it doesn't matter if it's Portland is playing Miami because they're right. Everybody's already there.
Are there going to be people in the crowd?
No.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, whoever wins this thing, there's going to be a big asterisk next to it saying Corona Chan title.
Well, I think if it's any of the top 4 teams that win it, I don't think it'll get an asterisk. Like if the Lakers were already the number 1 seed, along with Milwaukee, the Clippers, and some other team. I forget. If any of those 3 or 4 teams win it, it won't be an asterisk because they were already on pace to do it.
Yeah, true. Although, I mean, the intelligent sports fan will be like, oh, that's the Corona year. So that was like, a circus, You know, I mean, you and I know that first Spurs title was with the 50 game thing. You know, I don't put an asterisk next to that. Still the NBA. I know Jordan had retired, but still, so what? You know what I mean? Like this is even more radical than a 50 game season.
But no one mentions that LeBron's first title in Miami was the lockout year.
Right. Yeah, 66
Where,
games.
where's his asterisk? No one
Right.
mentions it.
Yeah, this one is so bizarre because it eliminates home court advantage and it's some kind of odd round robin type thing. 10 games. 10 games like that would count as regular season games. Is that right?
Yeah, for seeding
Okay.
purposes.
Okay.
So what they did was they added the 6 teams that had a chance that aren't mathematically eliminated. They're
Hmm.
like a game or 2 games out. They brought them into play. So also there's teams they needed it for certain teams played more games than other teams. Like I think the Lakers played 2 more games than the Bucks.
Okay,
So
right.
the and like they're like a half game apart. So the Bucks will have to play, let's say, 10 games, and the Lakers only play 8.
Okay.
Something like that. Something
Right.
to that effect.
So it evens out where everyone hits the finish line of the quote unquote regular season at
Mm-hmm.
the same finish line. Okay. Interesting. And what if your man's Chris Middleton goes off for 40 every night? You going to put him in your top 20? You're going to finally see the light?
He's in the top 20 among shooting guards in the Atlantic Division.
See, I'm old enough. Like the Bucks had Marcus Johnson. They had Dandridge. They had guys who could play. Those Bucks teams, if they didn't hit the Celtics and then hit Philadelphia every year, those Don Nelson Bucks teams were really, really good. And they've been completely forgotten. Like no one knows who Marcus Johnson
Right.
was. Nobody. I mean, I do. Bobby Dandridge. I mean, these guys could flat out play, and they've been because they hit the Celtics Sixer roadblock every year. They'd win their division every year, play either Philly or Boston every year, and lose. It's just when the Sixers won the title in '83 with Moses, Dr. J, Andrew Toney, right, Mo Cheeks, and those guys. The only team that beat them, it wasn't. Moses is famous for faux, right?
Yeah.
4 wins for this. It was really 4-1 in one of those series, and it was the Bucks series. Milwaukee's the only team that beat them en route to the title. Now, granted, it was only 1 game, but the other teams, no one beat them at all. So it's a crying shame that the team's been forgotten. And Chris Middleton, he would have come off the bench for those guys. As much as I like Chris, he would not have started for those teams. Giannis would have started, but not Middleton, that's for sure. But this current, and then this in the Corona year now that they're doing this system. What do they win? A bottle of aspirin and some Tylenol. What do they get? Like
Well,
a hot clamp for their head.
you know what was more interesting is that the start of next season is going to be either Christmas Day or Martin Luther King Day.
They're pushing back the start. They're pushing it,
Yeah.
or not, and are they keeping 82 games?
That's still TBD.
Huh. Because they should just get rid of the load management stuff and make the season 72 games or 75 games or something.
Well, they'll still load manage then.
Yeah. Even though they won't have to because there'll be fewer regular season games. It seems to be the whole point. Yeah, they got to do something. Jalen Rose, like we mentioned before, is the perfect. You're load managing or something like, did you play the last game? If you're not playing and you're not hurt, all of your numbers are 0. Jalen Rose, that's an elegant and effective fix, just like that. I mean, they'll never do it, but that's what they should do. If the NBA is smart, let's see what's his face, the current commissioner, who looks like a space alien. Let's see him summon his inner David Stern and just make that happen. You played the last game and were not hurt. If you're not playing, your stat line is all zeros unless you're hurt. And then you have to go through all the, like the team has to file the paperwork, right? On the injured list, whatever. I think it's great. Adam Silver.
Yeah, Adam Silver.
Yeah. Let him come correct. I think it's great. I think it's great.
Yeah, people are not going to want to do that
because their stats would go into the garbage. Right? I mean, imagine the guys that thrive on stats. Russell Westbrook's whole world is stats. His stats
well,
are
he doesn't
fantastic.
load manage.
I know. Ironically, he's one of the guys that it's a meaningless rule because he plays. So, and is this Corona Chan season from beginning to end is in an empty arena in Orlando? Is that right?
The playoffs are, yeah.
Okay. Where are the other games?
No, everything is in Orlando. They have a facility. How Vegas has the summer league facility.
Mm-hmm.
Orlando has a facility with just a bunch of regulation courts.
Okay. They should do one of them in like Rucker or West 4th Street.
Blacktop, yeah. Right.
That would be great. Could you imagine that? I mean, you'd have to fight people off with a wiffle ball bat because the crowd would be insane. That would be something else. Let's do it. Let's go back to old school. The NBA should hire me for marketing. That's brilliant. So I don't know.
It should just go to every court, every big court in the across the nation, and just play.
Or where I work, right? We churn out NBA players at Mount Vernon High School. We have a regulation court. You know, I'll risk death and Corona to watch some NBA playoffs.
Tobias Harris.
I'll watch Harris and Middleton go crazy. I'll watch them go nut.
It's funny. They're gonna face off against each other this season in the playoffs, probably.
Clash of the Titans.
Right. The two highest paid players on the court. A court that includes Giannis, Embiid, Ben Simmons.
Yep. Tobias, go crazy. Oh my God. That'll be wild. Yeah. Well, one of the things as well, because I know you only got, 5 or 10 more minutes, but I don't know where the stats people are, but I've been talking about LeBron James being the only 10,000 player in history with assists and rebounds and points. He's been there with points, of course, a long time ago, but this shortened season actually hurts his stats game. And he's one of these guys that plays all the games. Other than last season, he's one of these guys that plays all the games too, but he needs time. He's not quite yet close enough to pull it off automatic.
And he wants to get the 40,000 points, which is he'll be number one, right?
Yes.
So he wants to all-time leading scorer in 10-10-10. I mean, the case for him being the greatest player ever is that it's stats over longevity and still being his prime has been forever.
What happened to the steroids underground, very quiet whisper scandal from 5-6 years ago? People going to Germany. Wasn't George Karl up in arms about this? I think not that I'm insinuating that LeBron James is on any kind of juice. I'm sure it's just clean living and amazing diet. But
Pilates,
the workout with the bands, right? I see on Instagram. And but whatever happened with that? You see, it's a non-issue because guys sit on purpose, right? So it's not like they're playing 40 minutes a night like they used to in the good old days, except for LeBron, who's a physical marvel. Did anything come of that?
Well, I think why it gets swept on the table, and it's not questioned, is because he is a physical marvel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his body hasn't changed. It's just he can. So if he uses something, it's covered up well because of all his gifts already.
Yeah, because I think it was George Karl. It was someone like him, someone unafraid to speak
George
up.
Karl's book. Yeah, it was George Karl's book.
Okay. And it was going to, why are these guys going to Germany in the off season and getting like platelet injections in their eyeballs or something like that? It was like strange stuff. And they all went. Like it was a bunch of guys
Hmm.
that would go overseas.
Kobe.
Oh,
Kobe was a
okay.
master of that. Yeah.
Really? You don't hear
Hmm.
that very much.
No.
Hmm. And it may be just they want to get out from under the FDA, USDA regulations. I mean, you and I've been overseas where you go to
Hmm.
places and you just get, we've talked about it before. You go get whatever you need, you go to the counter, you pay for it, and you walk out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way
Well,
you're
the
not,
thing is that do they have to go over there because here they have their special doctors that'll write them the prescriptions. I think it's more of a paper trail.
what
They
do you
go
mean?
there so it won't. You
Oh,
can
I
get
see.
they can get any prescription they want here.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
have the doctors and the funds to get it. It's a paper trail, so they'll go overseas and no paper trail.
Yeah.
You can pay them in racks of cash.
Well, yeah, they have the killdozer show up with the pallets of bills, right?
Hmm.
Drop it on the doctor's front door, and he comes out with the needle.
Right here, you're
Come
good.
over here. This feel good for you,
Hmm.
right? And then then they're set for life. Everybody wins. Hmm. So that's interesting. Yeah, because that story came and went. It bubbled and hit, and then it was nothing. So
Yeah, it came and went.
yeah. So that's the thing with and so LeBron, who plays all the time, and if they do 10 more games, I'm gonna have to look at his numbers because the 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists, he was putting in serious work this year. He was really his numbers were good.
With the assists, especially.
Yep.
What is he? He's slacking in the assist, right? That's the part that he's lacking.
Yeah, he was ahead in rebounds as a point forward. But the last 2 years with LA and that last year with Cleveland, he was moving the ball around like crazy. He's such a good passer that it's really evened out. They're now very close. I want to say he's around 9,000 assists and 9,000 rebounds for his career. But if you're going to do 650 to 700 a year, he needs 2 full NBA seasons after this one to crack through the threshold. I
Well, he
didn't know
signed
that.
for 4 years, so he
Oh,
has
yeah.
2 more years.
He's got 2 more. I didn't know he was even mentioned. Who mentioned 40,000 points? Kareem finished with 38 and change.
Well, that's the thing. That's so they keep saying that he has that as a goal, 40,000 points.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's at 34 now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, he's got 2 more years on a contract. And he won't get to 40 in 2 years unless he's at 34 high. And even then it's going to be close because he'll do about 2,000 points a season, roughly 1,800, 2,100, something like that in this day and age. And it's because he's a gifted passer. I mean, he moves the ball around, right? I'd play with LeBron. I would allow myself to play with LeBron because he moves the ball around.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that's where we are. And when today's the 4th of June, when does all this stuff start?
I think it said July 22nd.
Okay, so 6 weeks or so.
Hmm.
Okay. When then that I didn't realize it was so late. So that makes sense then that they're going to start next season late as well. Huh. I have to check up on this. I've got to see if I approve or not, and then we'll have to talk about it next time.
Yeah, take a look at it.
Okay. All right. So we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
All right. Be back next time.
You got it. We'll chat.
All right.